before also we need to understand much about it. We need to understand clear difference between what is a database, what is a user, and what is a schema here. So when we talk about a database, under a database you can have a n number of users. Okay, let's consider this. So under a different database you can have a different users. Let's say you have a users like SQL1, SQL2, SQL3, something like this, and each user can create their own tables. It is also possible. I mean, they can create their own tables, they can modify, they can drop anything, whatever they want. Under a database you can have different things. Suppose let's say I have a SQL1 and you have another user called as a SQL2 and SQL3. So in Oracle, when you say the user or a schema, both are same. If you go to the another database, there will be a different hierarchy will be there. Each user can create their own tables. They can create their own tables and other type of objects. Suppose let's say this user can create a student table and the other user can create a student table. So one database can consist of multiple schemas or the multiple users. A schema or a user is nothing but a group of collection of objects. I mean, group of collection of this database objects, that is called as here a schema or a user here. So you can have a different user. So if you want to connect to the database in the real time, so they'll give you one user account to connect to the database where you can start accessing all the tables and everything. So that's how we define. So how can we use a SQL developer? So when we set up a environment, I mean a practice environment for you, you can use this SQL, you can use the SQL developer tool, so to do that. So if you want to enable the SQL developer, so just after copying it, so there will be a shortcut something like this in your setup folder. You just have to click on this. This will open up a SQL developer here, and using this you can open and then start executing the queries. So before we start using the queries, we need to create a connection to the database and then we can define it. So in order to create, it will take a minute. Okay, so just let me just open here. So suppose let's say this is SQL developer. I have so many things here, and I just want to connect to the this one SQL1. So let's say I want to connect to the SQL1 user. So I have so many connections here because I keep connecting to so many databases. You can create one connection for each database. Suppose let's say you want to add this new connection, and now I need the connection name. So you can give connection name anything. So let's say you want to give SQL new or ETL new or whatever, like ETL new practice. So just you can give that, and you can provide the username and password what is provided to you. So let's say, and you can save the password. You can communicate by using this one. So I know that my database is installed in the, so I think it's 105. Let me just click cross check. Yeah. So I need this one. So let me show you again how to create a connection here. So click on create. So you call it as ETL and enter the username. So let's say you call it as, that is a host name in the sense like where the Oracle is installed, and enter the service name is nothing but the database name. So if you just want to test the connectivity, it shows here as success. That means you're able to connect. I just want to save it so that I need not to enter every time the connection and all these details. So if you just want to connect to this ETL, whatever the connection, just double click on it. It will connect you to the database. It will connect you to the database, and you can start executing your queries. So this is the worksheet where you can start executing the queries. Suppose let's say you want to know so just the same query, you want to know the list of tables which are available in this schema which are already created. So just this is a command, select tname from tab, and so it is always a good practice to use the semicolon at the end of the query. So this is a list of tables which are available in this database. So to execute the query, either you can use F9 on your keyboard, or you can use a control enter, or you can use this anything within a SQL developer. If you want to execute a query, F9 or this, which you can use, and then run it. So suppose let's say now I want to create a table. So before creating any table, first you need to verify whether you have a table of the same name. So you cannot create the table with two tables with the same name. That is not possible. So you need to verify whether you have a table of the similar name. So just go to click on these tables. It will give you the list of tables which are available. We have a table called as a student, but we do not have a table called as a student underscore whatever. So this is a table which I would like to create, and we have each thing is separated, and each column should be separated by a comma. When you are creating a table, each column and the data type should be separated by comma. So when you try and execute this one, so this will give you this will try and create the table. See, let's say if you want to create a table here, and select the statement which you want to execute and hit Control Enter or F9. So I want to create now this table, student. So just hit enter. So now this is what table is created. So if you want to check whether this table is created or not, so just right click on it, first refresh it so that it can refresh all the tables which is there. So this is the table, just double click on it, it will open up the structure of the table in another window. This is student ID, student name, course, data type, and then you have the other things. So if you go to the data, there will be no data. So you just created a table, but you have not added any data. So that's how you can create a table to the, the simple, that's how you can create a table, and by using a SQL developer. So you can start using SQL developer, and if you want to get the comfort about the, the SQL plus also, you can also use SQL plus and then do that. Now, let's say how to add the data. So if you see, we have seen the DDL statement, how to define it. And we have defined a table by using a create command. Then how can I add the data to it? By using a insert statement. So how to add the data? So let's say, let me just show you a simple example, and then I'll accept your questions so that we'll understand about it. So how to add it? So by using an insert statement. Insert into, there is a table, you need to give the table name. I want to add a data to this. Insert into student. And let's say you need to give the list of column names for which you are inserting the data into. I'm inserting the data into student ID. Let's say the student name. So it is not necessarily to be in the same order actually. Course and fee. Let's say the join date or whatever. So this is which you have. And values. So suppose, let's say, what is a student ID? So I want to enter a student ID as 100, and student name, let's say, so Rajesh. So whenever you are providing a character input in SQL, you need to provide that in the single quotes. And course, let's say the ETL testing. So this is a course which I've joined, and the fee, let's say 400, and the join date, let's say you want to define a number, you can directly enter it, and whenever you are providing a character input. Join date, let's say a date also you can provide in the single quotes, or you can suppose, let's say this is a joining date of the student. So by default, in general, we represent the date in the dd-mon-yyyy format. So you can just provide the date in this format, it will be there. So at the end of the insert statement, you can add it. So suppose, let's say you want to execute this, so just add it. Now the row is inserted. So whenever you are using a DML statement, insert, update, delete, always you have to use a commit and rollback with respect to it. So commit is used to save the changes permanently. So commit your work. So whatever this is there, now the data is committed. So how would I view that there is a record which is added to that? So go to the student, either you can refresh it here, which will retrieve you the data what you have added, or if you want to retrieve the data from a table, you can also use the command called as a select star from. What is the table name? Select is a command to read the data. Star indicates all the column names. And what is the table name that you want to read it? Student underscore and 2008-2014. So try and execute this. This will give you the list of records which are available in the student table. So this is how you can retrieve the data from it. So similarly, if you just want to add another row, so that is your insert into. So suppose, let's say I want to add another one. So this, let's say the ETL testing, and they have joined on 20th August, and the student ID is different, which I want to give 101. So try and execute this one. So this will give you row, and then which you commit the data. Committing, you can also use this option, F11 or this. Now try and view the data. There will be 2 records which will be available. So that is how you can add a data to it. Suppose, let's say you want to update the data. That we'll see, when we go to the later classes, we'll see how to update the data, delete the data and all. For now, I just shown you how to create a table and how to add a data to the table. How to add a data to the table in using it. So I would like to hear if you have any questions so far, whatever we have discussed, and then move forward with the next things.
Yeah, Karthik, this is Neelja speaking. As a tester, I would like to know, do we have access to creating and deleting tables?
Yeah, you will be having access to create the tables, because when you are performing a regression testing, right? So that time what happens, you need to take the backup of the table and then compare that backup data with the newly loaded data. So for a regression testing. So that time I'll show you, using a subquery, you can take the backup of the table. So that backup table, yes, there you'll be having an access to create a table. In your schema, yes, there will be an option.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Hi Karthik, I didn't get the point when you say the user and schema are the same. So
Okay.
Schema is just set of tables, right?
Yeah. Schema is a set of tables. Now here SQL1, what you can call SQL1 as a user or a schema, any name. Both are interchangeable. So user is nothing but who has access to the database and can create the group of tables. A schema is nothing but a group of tables. Using a schema name also you can connect to the database.
Oh, since the user can have can create a schema, and that's why they are interchangeable.
In fact, whenever you create a user, user itself is referred as a schema.
Okay.
That,
So that's what I'm asking. Since user has the privilege to create a schema for himself, that's why you are mentioning the user as a schema?
Yes, you might call it in that way, but since the user can be able to create all the tables, whatever the objects which are required, so you can call that as a schema. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Karthik.
Hi Karthik, David here. I have one doubt, Karthik.
Yes, go ahead.
You inserted 2 rows, right? So is any possible to insert multiple rows for single command and single insert query?
There is, using an SQL, it is not possible to insert a multiple records at a time, but when you go to the advanced languages like PLSQL and all, yes, you can insert a group of records at a time with the help of a queries and all. But here in SQL, we cannot insert more than one record.
Okay, thanks.
Karthik, we can do that, right? Using that ampersand, whenever the user prompts, you can.
That is, yes, that is for a substitution, but ultimately you are inserting only one record, not more than one record. So when I use an ampersand here, ampersand 1, ampersand 2 and all, so every time your query will prompt it, you are entering the data, and that is one record will get inserted, and then it will go to the next record and then insert it.
So anyway, every time you should prompt.
There is some advanced learning, yeah. Insert all, which you can use. In the advanced PLSQL and all, we'll actually use it to insert the data, but general SQL, this is how we can insert only one record at a time. Okay, so if you're done with your questions, and then now we'll talk about the little bit of SQL part, what we are going to discuss. So we're going to set up the schema for, we're going to set up the SQL practice environment for you by, we'll send maybe in a day or two, we'll set up the SQL practice environment on your machine, and you can start executing the queries on your own, like when we have practice here. And see, when we actually do it, we are not going to create each and every table and populate the data, something like this. So what we are going to do is, there are tables which will be pre-created, that is with the help of scripts. We'll create the schema for you, or we'll create the user account for you, and we'll create all these tables which we use. We'll create all these tables which we use for a practice. So all these tables will be pre-created in your database whenever we actually set up an access for you, or pre-created in your schema, and we'll just start accessing it. So when we start understanding about your SQL, first we are not going to sit and define each and every table and start adding the data to whatever the tables that we want. And as a tester, you'll more predominantly use a DRL language, that is your data retrieval language, how to use a select statement and everything. So these things we are going to spend more time on the data retrieval language. So this will start with a data retrieval language first, how to read the data from tables. So why we have discussed all these things, to just to give you the basic idea about what is a table and how to add a data to the table. And when we set up an access, so we should will obviously get a question saying that how did we get these tables and all. And these tables are pre-created, and we have already populated the data into it, and we'll just start understanding the SQL. We'll just start understanding the SQL, how to read it. So in the first 7 chapters or the 6 chapters, we'll predominantly understand how to write SQL statements, select statements to read the data from single table, multiple tables, and what are the different options that we have. All those things we will discuss, and then we'll move on understanding about what is DDL things, DML at the high level, because anyway, as a tester, you're not going to define an actual structure of the table, but anyway, that's good to know. Like, we'll also understand about the views, other database type of objects and everything, we'll see. And we'll also talk about some analytical functions, which is very much helpful in your real time and all, so that we will see that. And first 7 chapters, as I said, like, we'll understand only about the select statement, how efficiently we can write a complex SQL queries. And we'll also talk about some real-time approaches, real-time scenarios, which I'll bring up, and then you will also provide you the hands-on exercises for each and every chapter. Once we complete, we'll provide you the hands-on exercises and some real-time scenarios where you can start understanding about all the queries and everything. And that way we'll kickstart our ETL testing class full-fledgedly from by understanding the first thing. So that is your select statement and everything. So by tomorrow we'll send you all the details to set up the Oracle on your systems, and we'll set up the Oracle and Informatica, everything together at the same time, so that BI, it is not possible to set up the BI because it will be a huge image. It will be a bigger image, which it will be difficult to set up the OBIE on your machine. But anyway, we'll provide you the server access for during the course, so you can actually access our server and then see how the reports can be viewed, and all the UI you can check it. So which we'll do it as the days progresses. So from tomorrow we'll just start with the SQL things. So let me just open a context, like how we go forward about it. So we'll understand SQL first. So SQL will take at least close to 7 classes, and once we complete SQL, then we go with the data warehouse and all those things. So this is, I think it's directly with a data warehouse design. SQL, yeah, will do the SQL as well as part of this. Okay, so probably from tomorrow we'll just start with the first chapter, and that is how to read how to write a simple queries and how to read the data from your simple database. And on a day-to-day basis, whatever the queries that I write, I'll also send you the notes whatever I'm making here, and you can just keep that for a reference. And we'll also share the complete material what is required. The complete material what is required for this ETL testing course. Everything will be shared as part of once we share all the installation files and everything, right? So that's how we'll proceed from here. And any questions or anything, you can always reach out to us on mail, and which will help you. Okay.